Chapter 7 Memory Adjustments. Throughout the following day, Caleb's mind was full to overflowing. He had much to think about for his term passion project. Last night, before he had gone to bed, he had watched video A6, End in Mind Thinking, Part 1, in preparation for planning and setting goals for his project. He felt confident that the strategy of taking the big tasks and breaking them down into manageable chunks was going to work. He especially liked the idea of setting things up on long-range and monthly calendars. Thinking about the systems he was now learning about, he realized that they would go a long way to solving the problems that had plagued him with his schoolwork before. By applying the clever quick lessons, he was beginning to see how he could get his schoolwork done, as well as keep up with the other things in his busy life. He laughed when he saw his project, Where on Earth Could We Live? Already in the video. He laughed even more when the details that he had thought out, and felt quite proud of, were already outlined, just as he had imagined them in his mind. Blaze had obviously had lots of input into the video. Caleb was getting less and less surprised by the knowledge Blaze had about what he was thinking and what would happen. It was strangely reassuring. For example, knowing what your teacher's reaction to something will be, before you even ask the question, can be quite helpful. It was with supreme confidence that Caleb had spoken with Mr. Badgel about his project title and plans. As Blaze had already known and shared, his teacher had given him the go-ahead. The day at school passed quickly and he soon found himself approaching the library and his meeting with Blaze. Caleb and Blaze shared a good laugh when they laid out the parts of the project, transferring dates onto the monthly calendar and Caleb's agenda planner. Somehow, I've seen this before, Caleb said, thinking back to the video. I'm getting a definite sense of déjà vu. You're getting a sense of déjà vu? Blaze chuckled quietly. What do you think it's like for me? I've actually already lived all of this. Okay, I've only got a mild sense of déjà vu. Nowhere near what it is for you, Caleb agreed. In front of them on the table lay the charts and notes related to Caleb's project, Where on Earth Could We Live? The sections were also neatly listed in the left column. There were the 4 parts he had decided on, beginning with the reasons humans would be looking for other places to live. Along with those, there were sections for an introduction, a conclusion and proofreading and editing. Each of the sections were then broken down into the component parts that needed to be tackled. On the agenda book sitting to the side, the individual dates had been selected when the actual work could be done. This is looking very doable, thought Caleb. They were silent for a moment, surveying all their work, before Caleb spoke. I want to know more about how you got here, Blaze, Caleb began, and I'm curious about what you said about getting a visit from the future. When are you going to tell me more? Well, Caleb, Blaze started. I was thinking that I needed to get you caught up on some details. Not everything, but a few highlights that may help you understand. Given the right circumstances, a person can move back in time. What has gone before has left a trace, almost like a footprint in space and time. It's that trace and the associated DNA patterns that are focused on, with the proper equipment. Also, the time loops are connected by something called Fibonacci spiraling waves, or FSW. These waves follow what's known as a golden ratio pattern known as a Fibonacci sequence: 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34, 55, etc. If you write the pattern down and look closely at the numbers, you'll see that when you add 2 consecutive numbers together in the list, you get the next number. Visits can be made back to any of the year spans that result. When we got the right part of the FSW spiral, we came to this time, reaching you where you are now. It's amazing to think that natural patterns that are repeated over and over in nature, and seen in the growth of individual living things, also govern the growth and passage of time. Once that was understood, it allowed for time travel to become a reality. Remind me to share with you what we have learned about old-growth forests. It's actually the ancient trees that act like a beacon for us when we move through time. You mean like the big old trees in the park, Caleb noted. Absolutely. One day you'll see how exactly right you are, Caleb, Blaze responded, raising his eyebrows, smiling and nodding. Okay, Blaze, Caleb replied. But, back to what you were saying. You have had a visit from the future, and you know about things from beyond your time as well, right? Right, Blaze replied. Going to tell me about it? Caleb continued. I suppose I could share some of it with you now, Blaze began, that faraway look coming back into his eyes. The first visit from our 28-year-old self happened a couple of months ago. It was kind of strange. I had been working on the equipment for time travel with Professor Emma Daisuke at the university. We were pretty sure we had the theory related to the travel correct, but we were having difficulty calibrating the energy settings. I remember leaving the lab for lunch that day. I had been getting a little frustrated with all of our missteps and errors, even though Dr. Daisuke said that was just the way it was with science, and to be patient, keep an open mind and keep trying. I still recall the shock I had upon getting back to the lab that day. All laid out on my desk were theorems, equations and calculations that appeared to work right through to a final conclusion. And all the work was in my handwriting. I was dumbfounded, I recall, and I had sat staring at what I somehow knew was the ultimate solution, spread out before me. I didn't move until I heard a cough from behind me. It was Dr. Daisuke. She had laughed out loud and punched me in the upper arm. I remember our conversation clearly. She had said, "You are such a kidder, Caleb. All your talk of frustration, and here you've outlined what seems like the full solution. When were you going to tell me?" I wasn't sure what to say, since I had no memory of doing any of the writing. I told her that, but I think she still thought I was kidding. It was then that I had, what I thought, was a far-fetched idea of being visited by someone from the future. I remember that I had just started relating that to Dr. Daisuke, when we were joined by a stranger who came up behind us at my desk. He appeared to be in his mid to late 20s, and he finished my sentence for me. I had begun by saying, "What if?" And he had continued, saying, "You were visited by your older self, from the future. From a time period where the formulas and energy requirements for time travel were well known. What if they brought with them that information and the completed diagrams for the time travel equipment to be successfully constructed? Wouldn't that speed up your work? I've learned a great many things from our older self. Some things I can tell you, and some I can't," Blaze continued. "Tell me, please tell me. Anything." Caleb breathed, eager to get more glimpses of the future. "Well, there is something you should know. That question that you had. The one about learning in the future. That was an incredibly great question. You have no idea how great that question was," Blaze related excitedly. "Because?" Caleb asked with a hint of impatience. "Right, well, it's the whole thing about MAs, memory adjustments," Blaze started. "It is one of the most incredible things about learning in the future." "MA? Incredible? How so?" Caleb strained to make sense of what Blaze was saying. "Well, what if you needed to learn, for example, a new language, right away? Like, in one day? Impossible? Not with this technology. An afternoon in a reclining chair at a special lab, and the knowledge can be embedded into your subconscious. All the necessary information is downloaded. Then it is just a matter of accessing it. That can be tricky, but with some special training, and knowing the access systems, information from the subconscious can be pulled out. Our 28-year-old self demonstrated it for me, and it was amazing." Blaze paused for effect. "Wow," was all Caleb could manage in response. "There are some other aspects of MAs that are a little frightening, so extreme care needs to be taken with the technology," Blaze continued. "What? Frightening? How?" Caleb gasped. "That's a whole other conversation, Caleb. We don't have time now, but I will tell you more in the next few days," Blaze stated. "For now, you need to pull your project pieces together and get ready to head home. You need to have time to watch the next video this evening. It follows nicely from the last one about setting goals. This is about setting long-term goals, using a system called SMART. SMART is an acronym. Each of the letters in the word SMART stands for an important part of an effective strategy for setting goals. Remember to set goals that are S for specific. You need to be exact in how you describe what you want to have happen. M is for measurable. Your goals should be able to be measured in some way. A is for achievable. Your goals should be something that is possible for you, and not so big that you couldn't possibly reach it. R is for relevant. That means your goal should be appropriate and important for your needs. And T is for having a time component. Whenever you set a goal, you need to indicate when you expect to get it done by. The examples will get you thinking about some areas of personal development you can work on, along the lines of New Year's resolutions. I know you were interested to know how I got so good at so many things. Well, in the SMART system, you'll find the answers. Follow that system and you'll be able to build skills in any area you want. Caleb tried not to show disappointment with the sudden halt in knowledge of the future. Anticipating video A7 helped. If it showed how he could get good at things he was interested in, he definitely wanted to take the time to view it. How about the same time tomorrow? Back here at the library. We can talk about what other goals you want to set, Lace stated, while getting up from his chair. And a little more about the future? Caleb added, hopefully. Perhaps, Lace responded. Without another word, they gathered their items and made their way home.